This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. We are your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I'm your host, Dan Z, drinking One Nation coffee out of my Hoth Adventures coffee mug. This is from Disneyland a couple of years ago in honor of the exciting things that went on sale today at shopdisney.com. Of course, we have our affiliate link, which you can go to our social media and to our website if you want to support Coffee with Kenobi and do some Star Wars shopping. However, today was a tough day to shop because it was very, very popular. Speaking of popular, though, we've got to talk about Star Wars The Clone Wars. We are on episode 3 of the Siege of Mandalore, Shattered. Let's bring in our Clone Wars co-host with the most, the Star Wars librarian holocron, or whatever your nickname is these days, Mr. Tom Gross.
Yes, well, hello. It's good to be here. Holocron Gross, I think, is what we were going with.
All right, Tom the Holocron Gross. Yes, that's right.
We'll do it. I like that. I like that. Should I make a name badge now?
You should. And do I have a nickname? Is it one that you're allowed to say on the air?
Oh, I don't. Well, no. You're just Dan Z.
Oh, well,
maybe we need to have a nickname for you.
Dan the Booger is there, something like that.
Yeah, no. Something a little more Star Warsy.
Well, you can tell I've been having my 6-year-old and I have been having a lot of joke fests. That's probably where the Boogers there came from.
Okay, there you go. Very good.
Well, we're having fun now, and we're going to change the tone a little bit. We're still going to have fun because we're talking about the Clone Wars, but Shattered is aptly named, which we're going to talk about. Go ahead and give me your letter grade for Shattered, and then your overall thoughts on the episode.
Oh, let's see. Overall letter grade. Well, you know what? I've given A+ for parts 1 and 2 of this. And this did not disappoint, and so I'm sticking with the A+. And I really don't want to say. It's not that I don't want to say. I don't have a whole lot to say in summary of the episode, other than the one thing that really stands out with me in this episode is sometimes what's not said, and the silence and the music speak much more. Speaking of speaking, I'm way off here on my. What I want to say is the silence and the music in places of this episode said so much more than words could.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, the opening, which we'll talk about here in a few moments, is very quiet, and the music is very serious, but very quiet and ominous, and very similar to what happens throughout the middle third of Revenge of the Sith, I would say. Mm-hmm. My letter grade is an A+. I thought it was tremendous, but I have to say I'm glad I watched it a few times before we did the show, because the first time I watched it, this is going to sound crazy, but I'm not going to say I felt underwhelmed, but I just wasn't sure where I stood on it, and I had to think about it for a while, and I realized, much like when a new Star Wars movie comes out, it takes me a while to kind of process it. And I'm a pretty quick processor when it comes to books, when it comes to TV and things like that. But for some reason, Star Wars, I have so much more invested, and it takes me a little more time. I've been thinking for a very long time about the Clone Wars and what Ahsoka what's going to be like for Ahsoka when Order 66 happens, and what happens with Rex. And of course, we got the Ahsoka novel, which paints some of those pictures for us. So I don't know what I had in my head, but I actually had expectation for this particular aspect of the saga. So it wasn't until I watched the second time that really gave me that kung fu punch of emotion that I'd so desperately wanted. But it took more than one showing.
I had the exact same reaction. After watching it the first time, I did feel underwhelmed, but it took me I had to really sit back and think about like what was in this episode. And I think part of what left me underwhelmed was the lack of just dialogue. I mean, and what I said was, in my summary, I suppose, is there was so much like space in this episode. And I think at the end, I just kind of sat back and thought, I felt like my life was kind of sucked out of me. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we are in the story, though. And so it did take me a few minutes just to kind of think about it a little bit. And then I let that music sort of wash back over me and the memory of that and like the feelings I had with that, so that when I watched it the second time, there was such deeper appreciation. And the words that are spoken are really, really, really profound. And I'm sure we'll get into that.
Right. No, the pathos definitely was much more overpowering here. Let's just get into it. So, the tone, the title, very heavy, again, very dark, very quiet. The music is there, but it's very powerful and almost understated, just kind of like it's creeping up on us. Again, because what's going to happen was very much creeping on us. We get a nice touching moment between Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano where they thank each other, two warriors with a lot of respect, but also with hearts. Now, Bo-Katan's heart has been a little bit harder to find, but I think we see it here. We see the Bo-Katan that we see in Rebels. Kind of solemn, kind of stoic, some sadness in her eyes, and which is why I found it even more touching when Ahsoka, who couldn't be more gracious, says, "I learned from the best watching you," and giving that deference to Bo-Katan, which I think was moving because Bo-Katan is very impressed with Ahsoka, but they're in the mutual admiration society, and I thought it was a very, very powerful moment.
It was, and this is the first of several powerful moments in this episode with Ahsoka, and it's Bo-Katan's reaction to Ahsoka's graciousness, and she turns and she says, "I wish I was better at something other than war." Mm-hmm. And Ahsoka said, and she's kind of looking around at this what was once a beautiful city. And a couple times throughout this story arc, she said, "My people won't stand for this. We need to end the occupation as quickly as we can." Early on, there's other places where they say, if Maul escapes, this is all going to be for naught. So there's weight to the war here. And in fact, they show some casualty and fatigue amongst the populace as they're going through the beginning of this episode. And we really feel a sense of the weight of the war, which takes us back again. I always do this. I always throw us back to past episodes, but that takes me back to the Martez sisters and the casualty of the common person. And here we see it, as Bo-Katan looks out over her basically destroyed city. And Ahsoka says, your people need a new kind of leader. And I just didn't know what to make of this line. Bo-Katan says, "My sister tried that. I never understood her idealism." Mm-hmm. So it kind of left me wondering, what's the future of Mandalore with that statement? Is Bo-Katan going to make a change? Is she going to try to be more like her sister? But here she says, "I never understood her idealism." So is she going to go on with kind of a fist kind of rulership? I just didn't know what to make of that.
Well, we know that Mandalore goes to a dark place for a long time because of Rebels. We know this is kind of the beginning of the end for them.
And Gar Saxon comes back, right?
Oh, yeah. And he kind of answers the Empire and becomes the new whooping boy for the Empire. The thankless one that's very happy to do so. Because, he's a bully and a coward, and he likes to be in charge and be told. He's like a rabid dog, really. But I thought it was important. That was really quite a Gar Saxon rant, wasn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me what you really think of Gar Saxon.
How do you feel about him? He's a cool character.
He is a cool character.
So I'm glad you mentioned the people of Mandalore, because I thought it was important to see them like that, because it made it more realistic. And I think it helps us to get away from this notion that all the people of Mandalore are like the cast of 300. They're all tough warriors and powerful. And I think they need to see some vulnerability and some humanity, because if they're all super powerful and thug-like warriors, then really, why would the Empire go near that planet? I think that was important to see that aspect of it, for sure. Then we move in and we get this moment where it's right from Order 66. Not from Order 66. It's right from Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
The Jedi Council is sitting around this table. Ayla Secura, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Yoda. And then Ahsoka is privy to that. Now, I watched Revenge of the Sith before this recording, so that moment is very, very fresh in my mind. Literally, it's just moments. Anakin leaves that area moments before Ahsoka shows up, which is ironic. And in the midst of that, they start to exchange some information and some ideas, and something fascinating happens. By happenstance, I had the captions on and for Disney Plus. So when Yoda says, did you capture Maul as a Jedi? There's no question mark on the closed caption. And I listened to the inflection of Tom Kane, and I don't know that it was a question or it wasn't even a declaration ever, just kind of a statement. You did it as a Jedi. And I think if I'm reading it correctly, I think Yoda was saying, like, affirming her, like, I'm so proud of you. I think Yoda still feels bad about what happened. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you got this. But she says, no, as a citizen. And then Mace looks around, gives some more information. And then he says, well, I'm sorry, citizen. These matters are for the council to discuss. Keeping her out of the conversation. But Ahsoka withholds too. She knows the things about Sidious's plan for Anakin, or at least she knows what's been told to her. If that information had been given, or if Mace had brought Ahsoka into the conversation, then this is a much different episode, isn't it? And it's a much different saga and mythology. But again, the pride of the Jedi, the uncertainty, the mistrust that Palpatine has sown, creates a wonderful richness and also a little bit of frustration as well.
Absolutely. I was so frustrated with in both the Revenge of the Sith as well as it being accentuated here. The person that it frustrates me the most in this whole thing is Mace Windu. I feel like he's so close-minded to this, and well, fine. Ahsoka claims to be a citizen. That's how we will treat her, and I don't want to blame and point fingers at one person, but both the Revenge of the Sith as well as here, I always point my finger at Mace Windu and say, if you just would have been a little bit more open-minded or done a little bit more listening, because
or nice,
or kindness or something, because even after everybody disappears, Yoda sticks around and says, more you have to say, Ahsoka Tano, and tries to, he senses it. He senses that there's more in Ahsoka, and it's that. But I also think you're right. He feels bad at what happened, but look at how powerful she has become. I mean, she did what Obi-Wan Kenobi couldn't do.
That's right.
And how many other Jedi have attempted to take down Maul, but notably Obi-Wan Kenobi, and she did it with a half of a legion of the 501st. Mm-hmm. And so I think Yoda shows some real wisdom there in staying and asking and trying to draw that out of her, but she keeps it to herself. And I thought what was really cool about that scene, though, is that after the transmission ends, it's Rex who says, "You didn't say anything about Skywalker."
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really, usually the clones stay quiet. Mm-hmm. Usually they keep, their judgment, or they just don't, it's not their part as a soldier. And so they don't involve themselves. But here Rex involves himself, which to me, now there's a long break of anything said, isn't there? Or maybe there's a couple words said between.
No, it's
okay. So that's the last thing said, was Rex's observation. I guess the last thing is Ahsoka saying, "No, I didn't." But then you have a long break and this eerie, creepy moment where they do the long walk with Maul inside that coffin-like thing. And when they showed that, my daughter goes, "Oh, that is so creepy." She goes, "Are his eyes open?" I said, "Well," because from the distance you couldn't really tell, but you could tell there's that little window. And then when they cut to that, she looked away. She's like, "Oh,
wow."
I was like, "Is he?" And I said, "Is he that I said, what is it? Is he scary, repulsive? She goes, it's like he's reading into their minds or something. I said, I think you're right. I think, that he's definitely doing something, and, but so back to the conversation, you go that long break and you go directly back to Rex is the one that breaks the silence on the bridge. And so I don't know if there's more you want to say about Maul, but I thought that was really interesting. And I think, it's one of those concise little conversations, the one with the Jedi Council. It's a concise conversation that holds so much depth. And what you said, one little change, one little open-minded moment could have changed the course of Star Wars history.
Yeah.
If she would have just opened up about Skywalker.
Or if Mace wouldn't have been a little more open-minded.
Yeah.
I noticed there's kind of been some back and forth because a lot of people love Mace Windu, and that's great. I mean, I think he's interesting too. He's definitely not one of my favorite Star Wars characters, but he's not one of my least favorite either. I think there's plenty of blame to go around. And there's understanding about why. I think one of the reasons Ahsoka doesn't want to say anything is I think in her mind, she's protecting Anakin too, because she doesn't want him to, I don't think she believes it or wants to believe it. And I don't think she's in denial. I just think that's quite a huge pill to swallow. But the mistrust going on in the council and how Anakin feels, I think she wants to talk to him first before she throws out that whopper. She'd like to actually tell him, hey, that guy that is your buddy, he's trying to manipulate you according to Maul. So she's going to wait and tell him, which I respect. Of course, it's not the right way to go, but we know, how could you possibly know that? The one thing I want to say about Maul, and I think there's so much to say about that hauntingly cryptic floating casket that he's in with this Mandalorian armor kind of emblazoned upon the front. Of course, you can't help but think of carbonite. It was outlawed. There's only one left on Mandalore. It's from a different time. Part of the history of the Mandalorians against the Jedi. We've heard about that in the Mandalorian episode 8, and we've heard about some of that in Rebels and the Clone Wars too. And of course, Filoni's behind all three of those things. So I'm sure there's something to that. But yeah, I think symbolically, I felt very creeped out by it too. I also thought it was cool. And you can't help but think of Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal Lecter. And it's almost like he's sort of like a dead man walking in, and it's fascinating that big tomb can't contain the darkness that is Maul. And I think that's part of the fear too. Definitely worth kind of exploring and thinking about for sure.
Is there something to it? And I'm missing, I can't remember the English terminology for it, but we have the breath of Darth Vader that symbolizes his presence. Here in this tomb, we also see Maul's breath going up on the window several times in that walk. Is there something to that about, the breath of the dark side, or what do you make of that? I feel like it's not accidental.
Right. No, it's probably not. I don't know. That's an excellent question. I'd love to have other people weigh in and say what they think. I mean,
that'd be cool.
I think it's cool that the breathing, obviously, from a biological perspective, is to show that he's not dead, which it would be easy to think that he was, because it does look very much like a tomb or a casket. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he's able to fog things up, but then it clears away right away. I mean, there's got to be some sort of air in there, which obviously, I don't know. Yeah. I want to think about that. I think that's
the dark side still has life, or I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, because with Vader, it's mechanical. It's mechanical breathing. It's the only way he can breathe. And Maul's just like a kind of a tiger lying in wait. Yeah. When speaking of lying in wait, we know Order 66 is coming. Before this one started the first time, Mace and I were so nervous, and I was wondering how you were feeling as well when you were watching it, because he even said, "I'm super nervous, Daddy, and I don't even know why." And he hadn't even seen Revenge of the Sith at that point yet. But the moment when they're on the bridge and they're going into hyperspace, and Ahsoka's walking across that little bridge, that narrow bridge with Rex, which is sort of very, very metaphorical. All the clones salute her as she crosses by, and I couldn't help but feel kind of a twinge in my heart for that.
Yeah. Well, because we know it's coming, and I'm definitely nervous during that. It was kind of like, when you've got something caught and trapped, the more you move it around, the more you agitate it, and it wants to and tries to escape. And so when they finally got it into that cell and they put the ray shield up, I felt a little bit at ease, but the music didn't change. And it continues as they go into hyperspace, and Rex and Ahsoka are standing there. And I thought it was, I don't know. Have you ever been on a long car ride and nothing has been said in the car for, long time, hour, 2 hours. Someone's been sleeping, something, and finally someone says something, and you just sort of come out of that cloud, and you shake your head, and you're like, oh, we're in the car, we're on a trip, or whatever. You have that moment. That's how I felt here, because they're in hyperspace. It's silent. They've made that walk, and then I don't have written down exactly what something on your mind, I think is what he says to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And I felt like that moment where, we've been going in silence for so long that someone has finally broken the silence, and you kind of shake your head. And Ahsoka, and this is the second, really, in my eyes, profound conversation that Ahsoka has in this episode. And you can't say it's juxtaposed because it's not side by side directly, but in the same episode with the Bo-Katan conversation to this one, because they talk about war again. And Ahsoka reflects on, I was trained as a Jedi to be keepers of the peace, and not soldiers. But all I've been since a Padawan was a soldier. And then Rex gives this little talk about, I've known no other way. Gives us clones a mixed feeling about the war. Many people wish it wouldn't have happened, but without it, we wouldn't exist. And it just made me reflect back on what Bo-Katan had said is, I wish I was better at something other than war.
Yes. No, I know there's a lot of a lot of openness, a lot of bearing their souls, and it's nice to see that it's Rex, because, like you said, he's certainly been a little more outspoken, still respectful, but I think that is necessary to show the power of their friendship and why what happens, shortly after this is so affecting to us. But when she says the Republic couldn't ask for better soldiers, or I a better friend. And I thought, oh my gosh, the dramatic Shakespearean irony here is just so rich and heavy, because it's coming, and it makes it more painful. It makes it so much more painful because of that legitimate bond the two of them have. I can't wait to watch Rebels Season 2 again to see their reunion after this episode, because it's going to really hit you even more because of this. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to explore with Ahsoka and Rex Order 66. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
As everyone knows, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel is the official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi. They are wonderful and have always been so great and kind and supportive to me and my family, both for our travel and for travel for the show. Naturally, recently, travel is very, very different. In fact, it's not going on right now at all with everything going on in the world. And the good news is that with MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, they are going to help you have peace of mind. MEI and Mouse Fan Travel wants you to know that you are valued clients, but you're a part of the MEI family. They are putting their decades of experience to work to guide you through this uncertain time. They are going to be your advocates and are going to keep you informed and prepared to travel with confidence when you are ready, when you are comfortable. And they are suggesting that you postpone but don't cancel. They're still open for business. They will help you dream of your next trip. It doesn't have to be in 2020. It can be 2021 and beyond. This is why I love and trust MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, because they will take care of it and me. And they will you too. They're going to be looking up things and helping me and all of you to have peace of mind, so that when you're ready, when things have settled down, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel will be the place for you to go. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, of course, or go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel. We are back, and before the break, we talked about Ahsoka and Rex and their relationship. And Tom, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, did you think that when the I don't know, the officer came up and said, "We've got a transmission from the Emperor." And Rex turns and says, "Would you like to join us? Maybe it's good news about the war." Did you think it was going to be the Order 66 transmission?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, you did? I didn't.
Yeah. I've been waiting for that ball to drop, and I thought, well, here it comes.
I was totally not ready for it. There I am, the typical, I don't know, just blind viewer, and just in love with the story at the moment, and I didn't even see it coming, even though I knew it was coming. And oh my gosh. And so he leaves and she's standing there looking out, but they flashed him all first, and his eyes come open and you start hearing the like chaos of Order 66. And then you flip back to, and that's when I knew what Rex was going to. It took me that moment to make the realization of that transmission.
Well, I think I was expecting, like, I said at the top of the show that the first time I saw it, wasn't really sure where I was with this, because I think in my mind I thought there would be a lot of grief. I thought that Rex wasn't going to be impacted because he takes the chip out, or at least we see that it's out in Rebels. So I had these preconceived notions, which again, this is actually a great reason why I don't like speculation and rumors, because I end up getting disappointed, and I don't want to be disappointed by the saga. Sure. So once I was able to watch the second time, that completely went away, fortunately. But when it happens, I guess I was partly expecting them to be in a trance, but it was a completely seamless transition, which I guess it is in Revenge of the Sith as well. But the music of it, how it coincides with the music from Revenge of the Sith, really makes it so much more haunting. Again, this is super effective because of the hard storytelling that's come place before this episode, even though this lines up with it beautifully. Mm-hmm. But I think it's key that when this starts, that Rex resists more than any of them do at first. I mean, he's got obviously a very strong will, but he starts to resist it. But then, of course, no luck. And I can tell you, and I want to hear what you think about this, but even though I knew that Ahsoka was going to survive, even though I knew she was going to be around for a long time, I felt like she was going to die, even though I knew she wasn't, because it felt so overwhelming. This episode really showed me and helped me understand why the Jedi had no chance against the clones, because they're just like an overwhelming swarm of locusts who were their friends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know that I had that dread that she was going to die. I mean, she's going to. And so to me, it was, how is she going to get out of this? And it didn't really have, it had to do with her cunning and her skill as a Jedi. And when she's standing on that table deflecting the bolts, it was just, we've seen that so much in the last two episodes. Her skill with the lightsaber has become so amazing. But I feel like what saves her is Rex. His hesitation gives her the opportunity to make that plan, or at least to, prepare herself. And I don't know. There have been many times in these last three episodes where I've just gotten that little bit of choked up moment of just, I don't know what the emotion is. But when they do that low angle and you see his helmet shaking in his hand, do you know what I'm talking? That moment when, after he gets the order and she comes up to say there's something wrong with Anakin, and they don't show his face, they go right to his helmet, and it's shaking. And that, oh my gosh, I really thought I was going to get a little misty eyed on that one, because I have figured for this whole time that the reason Ahsoka's alive is because of Rex. I just didn't know how that would I didn't know how it would play out. But it's those moments where he resists and he even says, "I'm sorry" to her, and gives her the clue that she needs before losing control and completely succumbing to the order of 66.
And it's a small hesitation. There is one, but it's very quick.
Yes. And so that gives her the opportunity. And so it was, story writers, I tell you, they kill you, because just putting it right there with that conversation where she says, no one's been so loyal or as good of a friend. And they go through this whole thing, and then it's all just thrown out by this master plan. Another thing that really hit me on the emotional side is when those troopers charge in, when she's on the table and start firing on her, is that on a couple of them is the likeness of her on the masks. And that really struck me as well on a visual side. And they, in the chase throughout the ship, that, several of them have that as well. And it was just really striking to me how destructive this master plan was. I mean, I'll never forget in watching the Revenge of the Sith the first time, I cried when Order 66 happened. I just, it was such a shock. It was so unbelievably shocking to me the first time I saw it that I did cry in the theater because I couldn't believe what I was watching. And same here, but it was so, I don't know. It really hit me. I don't know. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I want to go back to what I said earlier. I don't know if I really believed she was going to die because like I said, I know she wasn't, but I think I was more worried about her emotional well-being. And I've learned from this arc that, and it was something I already know, so it's really reinforced it for me, but Ahsoka's tough. She is mentally tough. And I think her images of the clones and the fact that, I couldn't ask for a better friend. These guys are amazing. And then they're all trying to kill her without mercy. And it's not just kill, but it's execute. Execute Order 66 doesn't mean just make it happen. It means execute, murder the Jedi, murder any clones who don't go along with this. Even though they're programmed to do so, they don't have a choice in the matter. They legitimately don't. And I found that scary. That combined with Maul being encased in that thing, they're going to have him executed defenseless. I mean, don't get me wrong, Maul is, about as bad as it gets, but to execute someone in cold blood, even someone as bad as Maul, shows you what we're dealing with here. So it's frightening. But I think that the main takeaway for me was how hard it was to see Rex. And at first you keep thinking, maybe he's faking, maybe he's going along, but he wasn't. He was a part of it as much as any of them were. And it's really, really scary. But I want to talk about Maul's reaction to Order 66 because we knew he knew that there was a plan. We knew that it was about to come to fruition. We knew he'd had visions of Anakin Skywalker and his importance and all this. But he had no idea that the clones were so integral. He knew they were orchestrated by Palpatine to start this war along with the Separatists. But he didn't know about Order 66 and the clones turning against them. And for a couple of moments, Maul is downright euphorically happy. He's so enamored. And this is toxic, abusive relationship. He hates his master, but he thinks he's just incredible, and he's so impressed with the cleverness and the calculating machinations of who this guy is. He kind of becomes a fanboy very, very briefly, but then that goes away. Yeah. But I was really intrigued by that reaction.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you know that there's a plan, and he's been kind of piecing it together, like a Sherlock Holmes almost. Of I know that there's this master plan and all these little pieces, but he doesn't know how it's executed. And so, when she releases him, he's brilliant. I mean, Sam Witwer is so great in this role. Brilliant. He says twice. Now I see he's turned the Jedi's army against them. And he goes on about like the realization of how magnificent that is. And you're right. He's euphoric about it. And then he turns, and then we, once again, we get the together we can, which is the ultimate Sith, line. Together we can defeat them. And when you talk about Ahsoka being tough, you couldn't have said it at a better time, because this is where, in my eyes, you see her resolve and her toughness, and that she says, "You misunderstand me. I didn't release you to work together. You're gonna be my diversion." And
Go create some chaos. You're good at that.
You're good at that. And then when he begs for, when he begs for something to like a lightsaber or something. She says, I'm not rooting for you. I just thought that was so magnificent.
It was outstanding. She says, I'm not here to team up with you, which kind of threw me because I thought, oh geez, they're going to team up, which is somewhat predictable, but understandable. So I'm not here to team up with you, and I'm not rooting for you. Now get going. She even holds a lightsaber to him, and she has no time for him. And Maul even seems annoyed that he can't. Like, I think that he's learned over time with Ahsoka Tano that his head games do not work with her. She's at another level, and
he squishes up his face when she says, "I'm not rooting for you." Now get out. What does she say? Now go on, or something like that.
Now get going.
Get going. Yeah, he squishes up his face and walks away. And I was
you
like,
don't really
wow.
see him react like that to anything, which is pretty wonderful.
Yeah,
he is awesome. So then we get a kind of a new wrinkle. Ahsoka goes in. She's trying to find an escape, trying to find a plan. She needs to get Rex. She doesn't want to hurt him. So she recruits these 3 astromech droids. I've got a lot to say about this, but I want you to go ahead and start. Tell me about that moment, the recruiting of these astromechs.
Yeah, I look at Ahsoka, and I think, the easy thing to do would be to just use your lightsabers, use your skills as a Jedi, and just tear your way through the clones. I mean, they're formidable, but in small packs, she would have no trouble. I mean, look at what Maul does to him in the hallway, and so she could do that. But instead, she uses her resources and she uses her smarts and finds a clever way to use what she has. And it's these 3 droids, and she walks in and how great are these 3 droids? Because all 3 of them remind me of 3 other droids that I know. Well, at least 2 of them do. And so, R7 reminds me in looks and sounds and even resourcefulness of the projecting and things like that of R2-D2. And then Cheap, I think his name's Cheap, is just like Chopper. Sounds like Chopper. I mean, Dave Filoni does the voice for Chopper for this screen. He's cranky, and he's got the little arm that salutes and does all that. And then I'm not sure who the taller one, Gigi, she calls it, what he exactly reminds me of, other than like an R5D4 or just a secondary helper. But they all remind me of something else from the Star Wars mythology, and she uses each one of them to their best abilities. So kids listening out there, this episode is excellent for why you never give your password to anybody, even your best friend. But boy, was it good that Anakin had given his passcode to Ahsoka. Otherwise, what happened could probably never have happened.
I saw this online. Did you even see the significance of that 4-digit passcode?
No, I didn't.
It's the calendar day that the Clone Wars movie first got in the theaters.
Oh my God. I knew that there would be some significance to it. I even thought of, after watching it the second time, of like Googling it, and I should have. So there is significance to the number. Because
that's when Anakin and Ahsoka meet.
Oh my gosh.
Where she meets Rex and the clones, and when we first meet her. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, that's very, very on the button. I wouldn't have thought of that. The one thing I want to say about the astromechs.
Sure.
There's that great callback to Fives and the detective work and the sealed records and just classic kind of gumshoe stuff, which I love.
Yeah.
But I was so taken, and especially the second time I watched this, of how she is just been turned on by the army she's been fighting with for 3 years. Her best friend tried to kill her. She needs to save him. But then she comes in and sees these astromechs, and she lovingly greets them, pets them, talks to them, nurtures them without any sense of speed or panic or anxiety, but just taking time for them. There is so much compassion and love and empathy for these astromechs who are scared and don't know what's going on. And she takes all this time for them. They're not even really, they're not really living in the way that she is. I was just so moved by that. And she is such a wonderful character. I think that's such a pivotal moment.
That's so cool. I love the way, I mean, what the word that comes to mind, the emotion that comes to mind is how sweet that was.
Yes.
And they even surround her. They even try to they want to be close to her and they move in on her and she's like, shh, now, I don't know why. And you're absolutely right. That it's such a what a moment.
It's beautiful.
A snapshot moment. Yes.
It really is. It really is. It's R7 and Ahsoka greeting the droids. Rex is recording about this inhibitor chip and the suspicion they have with this thing. And then we get this wonderful Maul showcase where he's barreling down this hallway. He doesn't have a lightsaber anymore, a double or a single for that matter. But he has the Force and he has rage, and he really has nothing to lose. He's just sort of unleashed, I guess.
Oh,
and the physicality, the way he takes these clones out and kills them. And I found myself a little disturbed that I wasn't more sad. Like I would thought forever that the Clone Wars was going to make me look at Order 66 differently in Revenge of the Sith, and it certainly has, more of the narrative surrounding it. Mm-hmm. But when these clones are getting taken down, I don't feel any sense of empathy for them or sadness, because even though they can't help it, they're the bad guys. They tried to kill Ahsoka, one of my favorite characters. And now that being said, when he pulls one of them through to get their radio and he ensures that one of them gets their arm cut off, and he just does it with, not necessarily with joy, but just without any kind of affect at all, I found that to be really kind of disturbing.
Oh, it's horribly brutal. I mean, you have decapitation, you have a guy impaled up against the wall, and then the cutting off of the arm, which is reminiscent of the Mandalorian in episode 1 of Mandalorian. But he does it to get the radio so he can, I'm guessing. And so it's such a, it's right up there with Darth Vader's entrance in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Of brutality and just the power and rage of the dark side of the Force.
A very good point.
And so and what it led me to believe is it shows his path to where he is in Rebels. He becomes he embraces the dark side so heavily, and he kind of loses his mind with it, that it doesn't surprise me that he is so what he is in Rebels, which, is years later, and he must be sitting for so many years and planning and just frustrated and all of this, and he has this rage pent up inside. But here we get to see it on display, and I think not having the lightsabers put him in a position like that. I mean, it's not Ahsoka's fault or anything, but it's just
a caged animal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, really what he is there. So eventually Ahsoka and the Astromechs capture Rex, and they shock him, and she says, "No, I don't want you to hurt him," which I thought was, again, an example of what kind of person she is.
Yeah.
But then she can't find the chip. The technology fails, so they have to rely on the Force, which is a wonderful motif that is very popular in some of the best Star Wars stories out there. Started, of course, by Luke turning off his targeting computer in the trench run. But then she chants something to make this happen. Now, I could not have predicted this if you gave me 100 guesses. But what she chants and how she eventually finds the chip, I thought, well, this is really something wonderful. It's extra. Go ahead and talk about that, and because I have a few things to say for sure too.
Oh, when she comes up to the side, the robot's just not finding. The droid is just not finding it. Scanned twice, 3 times, and she walks over and she's like, "We have to find. Without this, we die." Is basically what she says to R7. And so she walks over and gently places her hand on Rex's head, and she starts the chant that we've heard before in a very unlikely place. And here it is as unlikely. And I said, what? I said out loud, even though I was sitting by myself, I said, what is going on here? Because she starts chanting, I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. And she repeats it over and over, and Rex starts to chant it along with her. I'm one with the Force is with me. And after several times through the chant, the scan comes back across, and sure enough, there, hidden in his skull, is the chip. And it did take me a second, even though I any other day I could tell you exactly where I've heard that before. And of course, it's Chirrut who learns that chant in Jeddah at the temple, I believe.
Yeah.
And so he's the one that introduced that to us several years ago in Rogue One. And so my brain was just trying to like, how does this, we've never heard this before, except for according to the timeline, it's that we don't hear it for several years down the road. And so where does this come from?
That I think it says a lot about the living force and the fact that all living things are connected. Life surrounds it, or life creates it. Life creates it and makes it grow. And the fact that Rex chants it in a state of semi-consciousness, and he's not a Jedi, he has no innate force abilities of any kind. That I thought that was really moving. It shows the connectivity of all of us, and also is important too because. I was really struck by the fact that these clones are sort of slaves in a way. I mean, they're created for war. They're all warriors. We don't see a ton of clone civilians. I mean, while they have choice, they also don't really have a choice because of the environment they're created in. And it really kind of struck me. So to see him connected to the living force was great. And the fact that it comes from Rogue One, from Chirrut is not a Jedi. He's in tune with the Force, but he's not Force sensitive per se.
Mm-hmm.
Not anywhere near what a Jedi is. Not even anywhere near what Maz Kanata is, I don't think. I thought was really something that deserves a lot more future exploration, and I hope we get to see Dave Filoni talk about that at some point.
Absolutely. I just realized, and I don't mean to skip back a little bit here, but I wrote something down that I don't know. It was profound for me at the moment, but I don't know if it'll make any sense. I thought it was interesting that Ahsoka goes to the droids, and that the droids are programmed, not creatures, but they're programmed machines, and how she relies upon them and that they're more loyal to her than the clones, who are people and who have a sense of loyalty, humanity to them, but they also are programmed to go against her. And I don't know, there was something about that that the droids become her, saviors here in this ship. And then it made me think about a recent interview that was released with Dave Filoni and George Lucas, where George Lucas reveals that his favorite Clone Wars episode is the one where the droids are in the void.
Sunny Day in the Void, yep.
Yeah. And so I don't know. There was something to that. I don't know what to make of it, other than here the droids are what save Ahsoka. And it's been revealed that, George Lucas loves the droids, and he loves that episode. And so I don't know. I just want to toss that out there.
That's one of my top 10 favorite episodes too, by the way.
Is that right? Huh.
Oh yeah. I love it.
Cool.
I think it's really fun. So at the end, the first time I watched this, I wasn't 100% sure that Rex got the chip out because I thought it was so insanely fast. I mean, it was so hard to find on a scanner. How do they get so quickly into the neurocortex of this guy to get this out? But this is science fiction.
I believe it happens.
Not science fiction, science fantasy. Yeah, true. That's true. But it works. You go with it, and then Rex awakens and triumphantly rescues Ahsoka, and then you've got they're going to cut into the doors again. You don't know, is this the clones? Did Maul come back? Did he circle back for them? You don't know. It just kind of ends, and I said aloud, "Oh, well, another incredible cliffhanger." You're on the edge of your seat, but him saying, "Thank you. I tried to kill you," and just the way that they kind of, chat together like that, and he saves her was, wow. I mean, what an episode!
Oh, the ending was so high pressure and intensity. And Ahsoka's on the ropes. They even shoot one of her lightsabers out of her hand, and she kind of dips a little bit, and it was very reminiscent of Revenge of the Sith. The way a few of the clones, that I want to say it was Ki-Adi-Mundi, who fights, and they just one by one, shot by shot, take him down, and he fights to the end. I was like, oh my gosh, this is looking like Ki-Adi-Mundi's fall. And they do that shot. Bad choice of words. They do the camera shot to Rex's side where his pistol is, and you see his hand reaching for the pistol, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is not going to go well. But then, sure enough, it's the two shots go over her shoulder, take out the two troopers, and then take out the trooper holding the door up. The door goes down. She turns and she says, "Rex, are you okay?" Oh. Gosh.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It really is. I just occurred to me, I didn't give a letter grade for this one. It's an A+. Of course it's an A+. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still stand by the first episode of this entire arc as my favorite episode ever. But for pure dramatic irony and emotion and hold your breathedness, this is certainly near the top for me.
Oh, I think I was more nervous.
Yes. In
this one than any of the others.
Oh, I agree.
I mean,
I was more worried about this than her facing Maul.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally agree with you on that.
Which I think there's something to be said there.
I felt like in that episode 2, she was so in control of everything.
Yeah.
When she faces him in the throne room, she's in control. And like you said, he was in the process of learning that no matter what he says or does, it's not going to shake her. She's not to be manipulated. And I felt like she was strong. But here, I felt like there was so much that she couldn't control in this. I mean, she can't control Order 66. That's out of her control, 100%. What happens when she lets Maul out? I mean, even just transporting him, that's out of her control. I mean, if he escapes, then she can deal with it. But I mean, there's so much pressure. So much pressure.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is
That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. Be sure to tune in Monday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/live or www.facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi and have a cup of coffee, tea, or any beverage of your choosing as we continue the conversation. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be a part of the conversation, talk about this week's show, or just talk some Star Wars. It's a lot of fun and you'll make some new friends, as well as catch up with longtime friends as well. I also want to thank our new and longtime friends who join us in the CWK Cantina, and let you know how much I appreciate your help and encouragement and love being able to give back to you with CWK Pour-Over, the exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else. I want to thank Dennis Keithley, Jason Hall, Angela Sauce, Chris Gavarka, Aaron Harris, Alexander Moylan, Ross Hallivan, Jeff Ellis, David Nicely, Jessica Berry, Colby Mead, Frank Mulder, LJ Souter, Mark Suter, Nick Deco, Eric Struthers, Jared Cantor, Brian McKinney, Daz Davies, Thea Selby, Chris Metz, Caroline Maselli, Jim Capron, Blake Weaver, Dan Ream, Kurt McKellen, Christine Turk, Simbad Defterdarian, Ian Thompson, Alex Procasio, Hannah, Tyler Pompa, Connie Shee, Susan Gray, Chelsea Sansbury, Josh Boylan, and Yancey Evans. If you want an additional way to help out the show, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/support and join us in the Coffee with Kenobi Cantina. It's a great way to support and help out the show, and 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital to support the incredibly important work they are doing to help these brave children and their families. Plus, contributors at the CWK All-Star level can watch a video podcast of CWK Pour-Over, and contributors at the CWK MVP level can participate in an exclusive live stream hosted by me, Tom Gross, and Corey Club twice a month. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. In addition to being part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, feel free to email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zehr, MRZEHR. There are also a lot more ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi and check us out on Pinterest. You can find me twice a month on the podcast Looking at Lucasfilm, part of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, and you can find my writings on CWK's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I'm an official blogger there, as well as on IGN, where I contribute articles on Star Wars, as well as other pop culture topics. And if you are considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and help you make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzmedia.com and we can get the process started. I am also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. I want to inspire you to be inspired. This is your chance to take that first step into a larger world. Thanks as always to our CWK sponsors, especially MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, our travel partner and your one-stop shop for all things Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Lines, or anywhere on the planet. Please go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel to book your magical vacation and help support Coffee with Kenobi in the process. If you like the show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the Force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps to spread the word. Go to iTunes and search Coffee with Kenobi and you'll see the show there. My circle of friends has grown so much because of each and every one of you, and it means so much to me that we have a wonderful Star Wars community to share it with. So good. It's really good. And we've got one left, but my goodness, it's certainly giving us everything we ever could have wanted out of the final season of the Clone Wars, and we're thrilled. It's also, of course, very thrilling and wonderful to break this down with you, Tom. Tell everybody, if they want to continue the conversation, where they can reach out to you and do so.
Absolutely, this has been so much fun, and I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to break this down with you every week, Dan. So this has been a lot of fun, and I hope all of you have enjoyed it as well. Continue the conversation. Join me on Twitter at Draftline, DRAFTLINE, or send me an email, tomg@coffeewithkenobi.com.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here.